Once again to the world according to Rocky, and I'm your host, Rocky Miller. I have a very special guest with me today. He's a good friend of mine, mentor. I've worked with him. We've done some work in the community together, and I just want to introduce my good friend, Roy Gillis, or Pastor Gillis, how he's also affectionately known by his congregation. I wanted to bring him on today to talk about not only, tell us about his story. He's an accomplished entrepreneur. He's an Hbcu grad. He's a family man. He's got so many titles, man. And Roy, I just want to thank you for joining me here today.
Rod, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on The World According to Rocky, something that I watch throughout these months. You've been real consistent and really giving content to our community, speaking to our needs. So really appreciate what you do.
Hey, man, I want to thank you for that, man. Well, Roy, I brought you on today because me and you, we work together a lot. I happened to work your broadcast that you guys had of the College Cadets this past Friday. It didn't turn out the way the College Cadets would have liked. But we had me, Jamal, and all your boys, we had a great time. And so I was really impressed with your operation and how smooth it ran. I felt like I was working with NBC or CNN or something like that. And I recall when this was just a vision of yours, like before you had a camera, before you had anything going, we would talk and you would tell me your dream. And I'm a guy that, because I dream a lot and I have visions as well, even when I don't really understand where it's going, I try to encourage people and keep it going, and that's what I try to do. But I had no idea it would turn into what it's turned into, Syntex Sports Network, Lighthouse Streaming. How do you just tell us the journey of how you got from it being just a concept almost into where it is today, where you have a mobile studio, you broadcasting weekly, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week, also doing special events. How did you get it from?
It's really wild. So I did not come up. So video broadcasting is not something that we even could really touch 20 years ago, because the price tag was so high. One of the churches that I pastor out in the Goldston area, people were saying, hey, I'm going live, and so we started with my son that he's 18 now. He was about 8. He was the producer. He was the tech director and the producer. And I just told him, we're gonna put up these 2 cameras. The 2 cameras was nothing like you have today or nothing like we use. It was 2 computer webcams.
Oh man.
Yeah, one in the like right in front of me, in front of the pulpit, and then one on the side. So I'd have 2 camera angles.
2 angles.
2 angles. And I told him, I said, we
got something like that going on right now.
Right now. And so we started doing that, and it gave him some great experience. And strangely enough, people was watching it. All overseas, people was watching it. We got these 2 Logitech C920s. Great little bitty cameras, right? But I wanted a bigger camera. And I just made a plea one time to people that's watching, we need to raise $1,500 for a camera, two better cameras. Them PTZ cameras has started becoming more popular. Did that on a Sunday. Monday morning in the bank account that we had connected to the church website, boom, $1,500 was there.
Wow.
So we was able to upgrade. And so I said something to this video streaming thing, man. And so Syntex Sports, one of the other churches, I really just was trying to reach out to the high school. Mm-hmm. It was all selfish reason. We trying to evangelize, get kids to come to the church. And I told the superintendent, we'll come and stream a game for free. All right, we didn't even know okay, we're gonna put some cameras up. I got my oldest son, one of my other sons. We didn't even know what we was doing, right? But it was a scrimmage, and it was between Conley and LaVega, a scrimmage game on a Thursday. 4,200 people was watching the scrimmage game. So I said, it might be something to this streaming business. My entrepreneur mind started going off. I'm like, wait a minute, okay. And so that was kind of the genesis, if you will, of how we kind of got into the video live streaming. We were doing some stuff with production. One of my sons is one of the best video editors to me, and but live was something different. And so that was kind of the genesis of that Syntech Sports baby being born.
Yeah, like I said, I remember the many conversations we had as you
Lots
were,
of them.
As you were developing this business model, this strategy. It's one thing to have a business or a strategy that you come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Implementation and deployment is a struggle sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And as many moving parts as this vision that you had, you kind of didn't always know exactly how you would get it done,
Yeah.
but you always knew you would get it done. I remember you saying this many times. I'm not sure how they're doing that, but we're gonna figure it out.
We're gonna figure it out. Hey, that's what we learned that. We learned that way before all of this stuff. We learned that in our neighborhoods. I don't know how they doing it, but if we watch it enough times, we can figure this thing out.
Just to bring up something from your past. Again, I know Roy well. I've been knowing him at least almost 30 years now, ever since Jamal was an infant.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you had some audio in your background. Since you're a preacher, I won't go back to say what they used to call that back then, but you used to play secular music for money.
For money. Yeah, did all of that.
And so my point is, has any of that training come into play with your streaming?
Yeah, definitely. Understanding it's helped with a lot of areas. Understanding your audience, understand who you're talking to, know your audience. But yeah, I used to DJ back in the, shout out to all the old former DJs. Used to DJ back in the 80s. Well, actually I DJ'd, this is crazy, right? So my dad owned nightclubs, and so that would be a DJ. But sometimes the DJ wouldn't show up, or my dad didn't pay him, whatever the case. I don't know what it was, right? So on those nights, I had the DJ. And so I was probably just like my son in the church, I was in the nightclub DJing, switching between a 8-track quad and a turntable. It wasn't two turntables. It was an 8-track quad that tells you the time era, 8-track quad and that. And so that kind of started the whole DJ, and I DJ'd all the way, even in Prairie View. I DJ'd at Prairie View too.
So yeah, it was out of necessity. You was almost forced into it.
Drug into it.
Forced into it. So that's cool. That's cool, man. So we got on that, and I wanna go back a little bit and talk about some of the things that you've done, because you've lived a very interesting life as a businessman, right? So when I met you back in the late 90s, you owned a car lot on Waco Drive, right? And so it was amazing to me, guys. You got to understand, I've been in Waco all my life, and I had a guy my age who owned a car lot. As far as I knew, that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
I was late 20s, and there was a black young man. Now, we worked at car lots, and we sold cars. But black men didn't own a car lot. And so...
Definitely not in Waco.
And so and that fascinated me, that a guy my age in his late 20s would have the wherewithal, the unmitigated gall to come to Waco and open up a car lot and be successful at it. Where did that come from, Roy? How did I know your wife is from Waco, but how did you get in the car business to the point at probably 28, 29, you were the owner of a car lot?
It's some of these things, life got a way of leading you into a place, right? And so I worked at a car dealership in Houston, and still, this was the 90s. It wasn't a lot of black people in the car business, especially not in management. And so I worked at a car dealership. I moved up into management, And that entrepreneurial thing, that comes really from my father. And my father was an entrepreneur. He owned say nightclubs, furniture store, record shop, and air conditioned refrigeration business. So it came from him. He was always, because you have to make a place. And I train my kids, you don't never sit around and wait on somebody to hand you a check. So if there ain't no checks to be handed out, you got to go make money, right? You got to go make something. There's always somebody that's got something that they need done that they don't want to do. And if you're willing to do the work, you can make the money, right? So you don't have to sit around and wait on anybody. So anyway, as it were, in the car business, I was a pretty decent salesman, and moved into management, and I started I said, I want to do this for myself, And for one thing, I saw how people of color were treated at a car dealership,
Really?
You didn't always get the best deal. Now I didn't discriminate. I was trying to make money. I was hitting everybody. It didn't matter, but I didn't like the way that people of color were treated. So I wanted to do my own thing, open up a small car lot in Waller, Texas, which is about 5 miles from Prairie View. You got a daughter at Prairie View. It's right up the road from her. And so I opened up that car lot there in Waller. It was really successful, and pulled away from the Houston dealership and opened that.
So I want to backtrack. You say the Houston dealership. Now, I don't want to, I don't want you to, I don't know the statute of limitations on the IRS, but I want to talk about, were you doing well at the car lot?
Yeah. So at 25 years old, I was making six figures. That's when six figures was six figures. Six figures ain't six figures today. $100,000 is a lot of money, but not the way the prices were. So we were doing.
So you were doing well.
Yeah, we were doing good.
You were doing well. You were doing well enough to where you could have sat in that spot. Like when you talk about six figures is something that I never even imagined was possible till much later on in my life. And as far as I know, nobody I knew or anybody made six figures. And so, I'm well into my 40s, before I even realized that was possible. My point in saying that is that you were making $100,000 or more at 25, and you still thought to go create your own enterprise.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So from me thinking out loud is that's what you had your mind on while you were in college at Prairie View then? That you were going to be a businessman? Or?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to do something where I could control what was happening. Whether you entrepreneur, you sink or swim, man. You could sink just like you could swim, right? But I knew I wanted to do something like that, and because that's just how my mind thinks. So I could have stayed at that spot. I could, my best friend eventually took the spot that I was in. I mean, he stayed there like 17 years, man, and that job turned into a double that.
No, don't put the IRS in his business.
Yeah. So he did well, right? But it just wasn't for me. I don't have no regrets, man. No regrets.
Yeah, and so that's interesting because I think about how people in our generation, like, I know you had a unique upbringing, being that you were the club DJ at a very young age.
Yeah.
But people in my generation were told to go to school, get an education, and then go out and get one of them good jobs.
Good old job. Good job.
And so I don't think there's nothing. I think our parents meant well telling us that, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think they realized what they were enlisting us in. Really. You know what I mean? They were creating a level of dependency for people who I felt, if I had to think about it myself, it might even stifle my creativity. It limited my outlook on things to go and pursue a job over pursuing my own interests, my own dreams, and to even create my own visions.
Well, see, they came from a different place. My father was raised during the Depression. So they came from a place to where if you could just find a safe spot, if you could just be safe, then you take the safe place over the risky place. And so I understand why they said that, and that's what they pushed that, man. You know, go to school, get your education, you know, get you a good job, you know, and stay there for 30 years. But the market is different now. Where are the 30 year jobs at? You know, companies change overnight. You know, they get bought out, private equity firms come in, buy it out, sell it, you know, flip it. And so we live it in a different, the whole atmosphere is different. And our culture, black people, our culture in America is not one of entrepreneurship. And so that is different for many other cultures around the world. It ain't the same. You can't just walk to H-E-B and get your groceries. You got to go to the market.
Absolutely.
And you got to negotiate for the groceries at the market.
So in that, in bringing, so again, I meet you in Waco. And shortly after I meet you in Waco, we sit down and we chit-chat and we understand we have similar experiences. And at the time I was a father and you were a young father as well. And you explained to me how fatherhood profoundly changed your life. And I know how it profoundly changed my life as well. So that's something that we hit off on right away, how fatherhood changed our lives. I think at that time you were a father of one.
Initially, that number grew.
yeah. And I had recently had twins. And so I say all that to say this. We definitely had a passion for fatherhood, and we definitely, and you know, in my opinion, have risen to a level of fatherhood that is amazing. When you look at the number of children that you have, you and your wife, your lovely wife Sharon have, and the things that your children have accomplished, man, what do you attribute your familial success to? I'm not talking about the degrees, I'm not talking about the achievements and the Gillis 5 and all that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about the health, because I'm around your kids quite often with working with you on different things. What do you attribute just the overall health and wellness of your family to, and what values did you instill in your children to where they could turn out and be the young men that they are, young men and women that they are today?
I have to say women, because I got one daughter. I think, you know, without question, it was when I turned my life over to the Lord. So that, without question, it's a whole God thing. It's a whole God thing. I couldn't put on credit for that. And so with my kids, they know church came first. You know, I know it's kind of old thing. Church came first. If it was a church night, you ain't gonna probably be able to do that. You know, so we made God first in our house, right? And so when you establish that structure, you know, you got God, and then you got Father, who's the head of the house, and you know, on down from there, you establish something that transcends even this new, you know, kids are different today than they was. Shoot, just when mine was little kids, things didn't change. So it was a complete God thing. It was, that was first. I really can't, I don't have a book that I could write on it other than, man, put God first in your house and your kids gonna be better, you know. And so, and they knew that we was real about that. And so the other thing, this is controversial here, Rock. This is controversial. One of the other things that I have to attribute it to is my wife being a stay-at-home mother.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know, so that ain't no knock against nobody that's not. But I know my mom, she worked, and you know, whether it was in the business or in her own business, she was working somewhere. So I got home, I was a latchkey kid, you know, for the most part, and I got in all kinds of stuff, you know. So those two things, God first, and my wife being a stay-at-home mom, that really helped my children a bunch.
Now, Roy, and I would agree with you because my youngest daughter, though my wife was far from a stay-at-home mom, she has run several business enterprises. But her dedication to just family in that space and having that flexibility afforded my daughter a certain level of supervision, a certain level of support, that if she was a 9-to-5 working woman, I don't think that she could have done. And I am a beneficiary of it. All of our kids are a beneficiary of it. And our grandchildren, our 3 grandchildren are a beneficiary of it. So I think there's something to that. And I won't, again, everybody isn't in a situation or circumstance where they can stay at home
that's
and
hard,
be with
man.
their children.
That's hard.
Right? But I think what you're saying is the sacrifice
Yeah, that's what it was.
that Sharon made for the family paid off in a way that you can't even.
Yeah, my wife, she stayed. I mean, it's almost like a selfless kind of job, right? So when we got married, my wife was in the master's program at Prairie View, and now she's just now going back to complete she's about to finish her master's degree. She got an undergraduate in computer science back in the 80s when she could have just been killing it.
Yeah.
She could have been a black woman with a computer science degree. She could have been killing it. But she made a tremendous sacrifice, and so it was some things that we had to do. When things was up or down, we had that as a common goal. Whatever we got to do to make the family work, that's what we did. And so, but that ain't no easy job. No. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy job. And before we continue, I just want to remind you, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, please also like it and share it with a friend. We're having a very great, I'm having a great conversation here with Pastor Roy Gillis, also the owner of Syntex Sports Network and Lighthouse Streaming Media Company. He's really telling us about how his experience at HBCU, his growth in entrepreneurship and family. And I'm just glad he's here. And so we've gotten to the point to where we've talked about, how he has prioritized family while being an entrepreneur. How were you able to balance that? Because as both of us are entrepreneurs, we know exactly how demanding that is. Yeah.
How were you able to balance family and entrepreneurship?
I guess our family life kind of revolved around a lot of times church activities, and we made that a priority. So one of the great things about being an entrepreneur, you can control your schedule better than you can. And I'll just say this, man, entrepreneurship ain't for everybody, because you're gonna work harder as an entrepreneur than you are working for somebody's
Absolutely.
job. So if you're doing it if you want to get into this game to be easier, that's the wrong one. You need to go get you a good government job or something, and do that instead of doing this. So, but that's how we were able to balance. That was just a blessing. It allows you to do some things. So if I needed to take a day to fix an issue at home, I could take a day. If I just had to.
And I'm gonna give you your flowers, right? Because you were the first young black man my age that I was able to sit and have a conversation with about being an entrepreneur and what that meant. And you were also in a situation where you were an entrepreneur, you ran your own business, a car lot later on, a home purchase center, and you weren't crummy. Y'all wasn't living paycheck to paycheck, and you were doing it in a way where you were able to drive nice cars and live in a big house. And as a friend before going to, I didn't really I don't talk to people about their finances. When we're friends or when we share our life stories, we share our life experience together. We often ate at a historic restaurant in Waco. Now it is currently the eatery, but back then when we used to eat there, it was called Ham Bones.
Ham Bones.
And so we used to eat there regularly. Anyway, I said that to say this, is that he was doing well. And he had transitioned at that point from being owning a car lot to, again, we'd had conversation, he was going to go into real estate, right?
Real estate and mortgage.
And mortgage loans. And so we had a conversation, I want to say we may have had this conversation in 2001, 2002. And I, in 2004, took a plane ride to, and let me go back a little bit. You always talk to me asked me, hey, you ever thought about getting your real estate license? You ever thought about getting your loan
Yeah.
officer's license? And and again, you got to understand, in that point time in my life, I was, I was tethered to a job, and that's what
Yeah.
I thought my
Yeah.
life would lead.
Yeah.
A job was my key to comfort. But I was, but financially, I was living paycheck to paycheck, so on and so forth. So you mentioned this to me, man, 2002, 2003. 2004, I'm going to training in Atlanta, and I happen to take a plane next to a family. Now, this family had been visiting someone in Killeen, and they were flying back to Atlanta. And I was sitting next to a gentleman. We had a great conversation. He was telling me about all this. He was showing me pictures of his home and all this here kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, that home, seeing it in person, didn't do it justice. I got an opportunity. They later took me out to dinner. Him and his wife and his children took me out to dinner, and I was able to see their actual home, and it was literally a mansion. And then that's when I took out and had to ask them, I said, what do y'all do for a living? Mm-hmm. I understood on the flight that his wife was the CEO of the business and he worked for his wife. So then I asked, I said, what do y'all do for a living? And they said, we do mortgage loans. And I said, I know a guy to do mortgage loans.
The light bulb went off.
So needless to say, shortly after that plane ride, I may have been in Waco 2 weeks before I started mortgage loan training and studying for my license. I would later get my license and work with Roy at the Home Purchase Center. And and I learned so much about business in that particular space. We probably would have continued working for many years had it not been for the 2008 market crash. However, during that time, I was proposed a business venture. Me and my wife. Mm-hmm. with my good friend then and my wife's coworker Bobby and Catherine Touchstone. Mm-hmm. And because had been in business, because I had seen a black man be in business, because I had made money. I had made money with a black man who owned the business. Mm-hmm. I saw what could be possible in the tax business, and me and my wife have started our tax business in 2005, and we never looked back. And it's largely due to what you showed me in business, to have the courage and to see what's possible.
To step out. The hardest thing is to step out, and when the timing is right. One of the challenges that we had, and we've discussed this before, there wasn't a lot of templates to or say this is a template, this is somebody, these are 3 people that have done it, and I can just do what they did. And I could make money. It wasn't no YouTube University back then. It was none of those. You didn't know if somebody was making. You didn't know that guy in Atlanta was making it. And so, and sometimes in our neighborhood, because of your environment, you may not see a template for that. You see entrepreneurs. My father was an entrepreneur, so I saw him. But there was other entrepreneurs around. A lot of times they wasn't in good businesses though, and so the business hazards were much more risky. And so black people are very resourceful people. We didn't survive slavery, Jim Crow, systemic racism,
red line and segregation.
We didn't survive all of those
Separate
things.
but equal.
Yeah, all of those things. There's no way we could have survived as a people. So black people have always been resourceful.
And chitlins and hog maws.
All of that stuff, man. And so cracking neighborhoods, we survive all of those things. So we're very resourceful, but we lack templates sometimes of people that have done the same thing. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to do what somebody else did, put your spin on it, and take off from there.
And I liken what you did is that you provided an example. Only thing we had to do was lay it out and draw a line around it and cut it out. It's like tracing something and cut it out from a business standpoint. And we were able to take that, and I can truly say that for me and my wife, since we started our business in 2005, it has completely changed our lives and the life of our family. Mm-hmm. And so all of our kids have benefited from it. Our grandkids have benefited from it. And so it's just, I'm passionate about entrepreneurship not because of the money. Like the money is just what happens when you do good business. Like that's just what happens when you do get good business. What it allows you to provide for your family and possibly leave the legacy that you possibly able to leave.
That's the key.
That's what's, in my opinion, what's really important.
If you want to make money, there are jobs out here where you can go and make money. You can, if you got the right skill set, you can go and make money. The difference between a job making money and being you creating the wealth or you creating the job and making money is you can't leave anything at your job to your family. You got your 401k, they're going to go through that pretty quick. And you may get some retirement from it. That's it. After you die, there's nothing else coming. But your business, if you could train your children up in the business, and we see this happening in other communities, right? When I was 6, my father had me on the register in the business. I knew how to make change at 6, so I don't need the computer to tell me how to make change, right? So I learned that then.
And Mr. Gillis was going to make sure the change was right.
Yeah. That was back when we had these big cash registers. You pull them down almost.
As you shared many stories about the type of man your father was, he was going to make, if you was going to work the register, you wasn't going to be short.
You had to count the money right. And so, but you see that when you go to the corner stores, you see their kids, they're not even from this country. They learning how business models work. They see and so these are things you can do that you could pass on. And so I would say that definitely the most successful African-American tax company in McLennan County is yours, but maybe one of the most successful tax companies any race is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because longevity, you can't be in business since 2005. It's 22, man. And you just came through a tax season. So you can't do it's not that many still in business, but your children have benefited, and if they want to come in, you're going to pull them in.
Now that's something I must admit that Keisha and I have struggled with, and I'll take largely responsibility for that, is because we hadn't made it an initiative to bring them in. We've wanted them for years to come in voluntarily. But just now we're seeing that our children have interest in the business, and I hope to someday have my children working in the business the same way I witnessed, and my heart was full Friday night to see the Gillises putting hands together, setting up, tearing down. Of course, your business is a lot more labor intensive, and there are many opportunities in your business to employ your kids as well as other kids in the community. It would just fill my heart. It did my heart good to sit up and just see that and watch it operate. And I think they take pride. That's what I saw. I saw them taking pride in knowing that that's their business. It's
theirs, and I let them know this is y'all's. I'm in it, and I'm gonna be a part. I can make some decisions. But it's a lot of things that, especially as we move forward. So Syntech Sports is just a part of it. That's going to be one channel. We're moving toward, couldn't share a whole lot, but we're moving towards starting a network here in Waco. So that's just a part of it. And so they're instrumental. I get their ideas, man, because they speak the language. They speak the language. I don't speak 25-year-old sometimes. I miss it sometimes. In church and out of church, I miss it.
Yeah, and so that was a great experience Friday, watching you and your kids work together and broadcast, and being on the broadcast with Jaron and Jamal working, being the producer for all intents and purposes, and you talking in the earpiece as we're going to break. Hey, we're going to break, and
you can go on Syntech Sports. You can watch a replay, and you'll hear the voice of Rocky Miller calling one of the touchdown replays.
And that's one thing, like while we're here, let's take a pause right quick, right? Go to Syntech Sports Network, right? If you're on an iPad, you can do both at the same time. You can go to syntechsportsnetwork.com. You can subscribe, and you'll be notified. Right now, it's largely sports content that is high school sports. You do have the Southern Panthers that also stream live with you guys. But I know that as we've talked, and I won't mention the things that we talked, but you're looking to expand your content and so that ultimately what you create is opportunity for local businesses here to ads and to scale to run ads and grow their business. And I consider that a real opportunity for people to come in and advertise at a really affordable price.
But the biggest thing, Rock, is not even that. The biggest thing that we want to do is we want to tell the stories.
Absolutely.
Told from our perspective. A lot of times, the things that you see, especially in our region, right, McLennan County, the surrounding counties, all the stories are told from a certain perspective, right? So there's always two sides to a coin, and so we want to. We're passionate about telling our stories from my perspective, from our perspective. You know what I'm saying? From the people that's from the bottom looking up, and not always the people on the top looking down. So that's what we're really excited about.
Well, as you talk about telling stories, right? So, and as you're building this, as you're building Syntex Sports Network and Lighthouse Streaming, are you open to other? So let me kind of backtrack or whatever. Roy, you have a streaming service, but you're also a media production company as well, right? Would you also be willing to partner with other production companies to place as a home to place their content as well?
Definitely, especially if that content lines up, if we line up mission-wise. We're not doing crazy stuff, but someone asked me, well, like, what is something you would want to see? It'd be something that you would sit down and watch with your family. We ain't wilding out, right? Because that story gets a lot more press than the dude that's got a tax company and a travel agency and been in business for 20 years. That story don't get a lot of press, but if you was wilding out doing something, so we want to tell those kind of stories. So if you're a content creator, if you're creating content and you want to partner on either creating something or just monetizing your content by running it on our platform once we get that up and going, because it won't be long. It'll be this year. We're going to be ready to roll this year. We're definitely interested in partnering with people.
Yeah, and I remember, and you helped us out this past year as well. I remember when, as a community, we joined hands and started the Feast in the East, along with Carlton Stimson and Bobby Touchstone and many other members of the community who came together to put on a tremendous
Feast in the East is off the chain, man.
Event of giving back to East Waco, and that's something that we're going to do again. But you guys have helped us with that, and last year, Jamal even came out and shot some footage and has created some videos that we haven't released yet, promotional videos that we haven't released yet to kind of show the work that was being done on that day. And so, I mean, it's those are the kind of stories that you will, I think that would be great for your channels, because those are the kind of stories about people helping people, communities coming together. Even those, if you got a story like Rudy, of somebody against our odds kind of story.
Because that's the story of people that are on the bottom trying to pull up, right? So those stories are the ones. They're them documentaries that I watch all the time. I like to see other people that's done won, but it's a lot of things happening just here in Waco. And I think we mentioned this one time before in the conversation. We're trying to win Waco first, right?
Absolutely.
Win home first. And so there's a lot of content right here. It's all kind of stuff. Waco is rich with history, man. And all of the history is not in one particular community, right? It's a lot of communities. I didn't even know Waco had a Negro baseball league team.
Oh, wow, I didn't either.
I saw something on TV last because only time we get any Black history is
in February.
Yeah, that's shortest month in the year. So, but it's all kind of stories, not just Black stories, but it's all kind of stories of people that are on the bottom that's been pulled up that are maintaining through all of this stuff that's going on, man.
And me and you have talked to great lengths about those stories, and unfortunately, some of the people that we've talked about telling stories have passed on now, and that's unfortunate that those things have happened. But as I know, that just creates more urgency to tell the stories that are people that are still here with us.
Yeah.
So even if, I mean, I'd be open to hearing any stories or any ideas out there, and I know Roy's probably open to it as well.
Yeah.
To put some cameras in front of some people, man, so they can really tell their stories, because a lot of these stories are uplifting and inspiring. When I think about the people who and what they've done, when you think about what Noah Jackson did and what Lester Gibson did, and these people have passed here recently.
Yep. We lost Gibson.
And also Lester McDowell and all these men, and James McCoy, and all these men who have passed on recently that did great things in the community, and they were great men. And though I've told those stories to my kids and my family, it'd be nice to have created something that generations that weren't here to experience life with them could hear their stories and be inspired by those same stories. So, I mean,
that's going to happen, man. That's happening. That's going to happen. So if you're a content creator and you think this might be a passion of yours, definitely hit me up, and I'm interested in talking with you.
And as we're sitting here talking, I want to tell everybody, I'm a content creator, and I do it because I love the art of storytelling. I love engaging with people. I love talking about things, talking about sports, and all kind of stuff with all kinds of people, man. And if you have a passion for something, if you want to do something, this is what I tell anybody: just turn the camera on. Just turn the camera on and get to talking. And whether there's 100 people watching or no people watching, broadcast like there's millions of people watching, and eventually, it'll happen. Like I say,
keep grinding.
My channel has grown from 7, 8, 9 people all the way to 2,500 viewers on YouTube. And I want to thank each and every one of you who have liked and who have subscribed, because I truly do this as a passion, and I enjoy doing it. It also allows me to inform the community, and also about things that I enjoy and I think are very important. But it also allows me to have some fun, and talk about HBCU sports. And so with that being the case, we're going to wrap this up, and we're going to talk a little Prairie View, but just talk a little HBCU sports, because I think, so this is my hope. I hope that Roy somehow can get into the space where he can broadcast some HBCU sports for some of these colleges, and I could be a tag along, a hand, or carry some bags, or do something so that I could participate in the broadcast some kind of way.
The story of the HBCU sports story really is not it's not the athletics that's going on in the field, man. To me, it's how interesting HBCU content has become. That's the story. Like
the thirst for it.
The thirst for it. It's like everywhere. You pop up HBCU anything, and you getting views, and it's really these people that made this HBCU thing come together, right, are so influential in culture that now we have become popular. HBCU stuff, man, HBCU stuff was not popular. People didn't want to, people even had a negative mindset toward a HBCU. Now, people trying to get to a HBCU. It's incredible. I'm glad, but the thing is, we discounted the importance of what we had, right? And so now, because other people are thinking it's popular, now we're putting some more clout behind it, right? It's worth something now, but it was worth something before.
Absolutely,
it was worth something before.
So what I've as new to the HBCU culture as a fan, right? I must admit, my sister graduated from Southern in 1980, and so I've always been experienced had HBU stories being told to me about the pageantry around the games or whatever. But I was a football geek. I was a football head. I was
HBCU was about the band over the last 30, 40 years.
So that's why it never caught on with me. It never kind of something, because I was about watching, I grew up watching University of Texas, Oklahoma, whatever, and I thought that's what football is, right? However, but the football has drawn me in due to primetime, Deion Sanders being the head coach of Jackson State has brought me in. But it's not only that, like the football is great, don't get me wrong, and I enjoy it tremendously, and that's why I'm there. But also the pageantry around football and the things that happen around football, I understand why people have clung on to that just as much as the football. Now, again, I think they're doing themselves a great service now by keeping football the main thing and making that, putting that on the forefront. But the band and the other stuff are just as important. And what's really important, the politics around HBCU athletics and culture is really interesting
It's a
and
struggle.
well.
It's a struggle going on. You know, you got big money wanting to come in and do things a certain way. HBCUs have always had their own our own kind of way of doing things, right? This is the way we've been doing it. And so, you know, you got some struggle in transition. You're a businessman, you already know. Anytime there's a movement that's transition, there's going to be some struggle, right?
Absolutely.
So, but they'll make it through that. In the meantime, HBCUs are still doing what they've been doing, providing quality education to people of color. And when you look at the workforce, Prairie View, for instance, if you look at engineers across the country that are black, many of them come from schools like Prairie View, Tuskegee, you know, HBCUs throughout the South and even the North. And so they've been providing those educations for these kids for like 100 years, man. And that has not changed. What has changed is there's some eyes. You know, that was the chitlin circuit, and just like chitlins in the restaurant have become a delicacy, you know, instead of the part of the pig that
They throw out.
Yeah, oxtails. Y'all seen the price of oxtails lately? Man, didn't nobody want no oxtails. That's what the people out in the sharecroppers and slaves had to eat the oxtails, because the farmer ate the best parts,
Yes.
right? And so now
we got oxtails popping.
yeah, now oxtails. But the Bible says that the last shall be first, and the first shall be last.
No, but what's interesting to me is the struggle now of, especially on the sports landscape, is there are certain influences in HBCU culture who have always taken pride of it being all black or majority black or black controlled, right? And some people from the outside, even like myself, have attributed some of those failures to it being all black, you know what I'm saying? Like not pulling in talent from other communities. I think in some cases have held it back. Maybe that's my opinion from the outside, and not being as an insider. How do you see it?
I disagree in some respects. So you want the talent, right, from wherever you can get the talent. However, because of the mission statement behind the HBCU, you do need to make an effort to find talent that aligns with this culture, right? So a problem that we've had is that we didn't know where that talent was, and there was no efforts made. But it's black people working at ABC, ESPN. You've got guys, you got HBCU Go now. You got Byron Allen. You got guys that are people of color that have been working, but we didn't make no efforts to enlist them, because really what we wanted our people.
And that's what I was just.
We wanted our people.
That's what I was just gonna say, Roy. I you know, when I started producing content for HBCUs, the first thing gonna ask me is, what's your school?
Yeah, what school you go to?
And you know, I would quickly tell them, I did not attend the HBCU, but if you want me to send my daughter's receipts,
you done invested in it.
Cause we paying real money to Prairie View, not play money, not government money. We paying real money. So
Prairie View A&M, who you root for?
And so any contribution you make to slowburnwaco.com and Personal Cigar, getting your taxes done at Prosperity Tax Service, or even if we're ever able to get monetized on YouTube, all those proceeds will be
Going
down to Prairie View until she complete her education. But with that being said, so they want to know. So I think it's a very, and I used to use the word insular, and you taught me a new word. You told me that we're protective of our culture and our history, and we don't want it diluted or watered down. And so I understand that now. So I don't take the offense to someone saying, "What school you went to?" You know,
you want to protect it. You want to, we've been traumatized, so they're protective because they don't want it to turn into something else. And the essence of what the HBCU is, they can keep. HBCUs are changing, man. And Prairie View is not predominant. It's predominantly black, but you got a lot of white people that go to Prairie View. You got a lot of Asians now that go to Asian people. So you got different communities just because that's what life is, man. Houston almost touches Prairie View now.
Yes.
So, 99 right to Prairie View. I mean, so.
I see a lot of debit transactions in Houston.
Yeah. So
from a little girl that's supposed to be in Prairie View.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to talk about that off camera. But so the essence of what the HBCU is, hopefully won't change, but the landscape has changed. How we do things is going to have to change. How do you manage now all of these eyeballs, and how do the people that were there take advantage of these economic opportunities, right? Because what we don't want is for people that had no stake, no interest, no concern about this group of people or this entity to now come in and pull all the money out.
So that kind of is that same is the conversation that Councilwoman Bearfield has been preaching for a while. Is that, and I'll say this, in this situation where East Waco, like HBCUs, is going through a transformation.
Yeah.
And as it goes through what we consider a very positive transformation, we want to make sure that the current residents of East Waco benefit from the upgrades that are and the money that's being invested in East Waco, and you don't want that. You don't want it changed to the point to the people that actually benefit.
That went through all of the stuff, all of the hardships, made all the sacrifices. Generations of people in those schools feeding those elementaries to now the bags show up, and I can't get none of the bag.
Yeah,
I got a problem with that.
Yeah, you don't want the people who have been there left out.
Yeah, I got a problem with it, and so I think a lot of the HBCUs, McLennan, the current SWAC commissioner, he was at Prairie View at the same time as me, and I remember him, and so I think that he has a feel for that. It's going to be some mistakes and all of that, but he's got a feel for trying to protect what we got, and basically, these HBCUs are setting culture. So I would tell anybody, if you want to get you want your kid to get a good quality education, if they want to go to HBCU, don't discourage that. Let them go on down there, get a good education. And there's one thing that UT can give you, and that is the experience of being around black excellence.
That's
UT can't give you that.
So that's something that I have experienced with my daughter. Had that becoming part of her vernacular now, being raised in school where she was, and now she's been exposed to black excellence, and she has a clear understanding that black people are able to do things at a very elite level. Not because it's all black, they just happen to be all black. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying?
The differences are celebrated instead of trying to make you curtail something. No, your hair looks different. You all right? Come on.
Because there are forces in communities all over America that associate blackness with negativity, with depravity, and things of that nature. And when you go to a HBCU, and when people talk about HBCUs amongst the community, their eyes light up because they know it benefited them in a way that it gave them something they couldn't have got at UT,
Couldn't get it.
or North Texas or whatever.
And we gotta, I gotta say this, man. We have to make sure that we promote or we esteem black excellence. So whether that be the entrepreneur, because I hear all these things, oh, black people in business, we got these negative things. And so the same thing kind of transposed to the HBCU. Oh, it's just a party school. Well, every college in America on Thursday night is probably a party school, and I guarantee you that Prairie View,
Saturday night too.
Saturday, I guarantee you Prairie View ain't throwing a better party than they are at UT, because they got more resources than UT.
Yeah.
They got a whole 6th Street, right? So we have to make sure that we are not the ones that tear down, because that's used against you in negotiations in business and all of those things. Because if you're tearing it down, well, I don't have to pay you as much for this content that
Absolutely.
you're creating.
Absolutely.
So and so we, as parents, as people of color, any color, don't tear down the HBCU because you may not understand something.
So, and this is something that I've decided that I'm going to not do, right? And it's largely because of the conversation that we've had, is that I'm no longer going to have a conversation that's centered around cronyism and nepotism as it relates to HBCUs, because there was a period of time that before I came to the culture, that's all who wanted to work there, are your friends and your family. You struggle to get somebody else from outside to come in and do the work that needed to be done in our community. And so, and it's going to take some time for the systems that that existed far beyond my interest in HBCUs for that process to kind of, weed itself out. And so that's one thing I'm not going to demean, little, or even point out, because I believe through black excellence, right, those systems of cronyism and nepotism will eventually be weeded out.
It's already changing. I mean, they're going after the best and the brightest. Just looking at my wife's graduate class, both professors, profs, and students. I mean, it's a completely different landscape, and so of teachers, So I think one of our main teachers is a Chinese guy. I mean, it's completely different now. So they're going after the best so that they can produce the best product.
Absolutely.
That's what they're doing. So it's about the best product. So we're competing, and PV want to compete, Jackson State want to compete, Grambling, Alabama A&M, Mississippi Valley, Jackson, all of these schools, and you go on up north from there. If you're from Waco, Paul Quinn up in Dallas wants to compete. Everybody wants to compete, and they're trying to use the resources that they have to put out the best product.
And as we wrap up, I just want to say this last thing about HBCUs. A lot of us look at HBCUs in the terms of football and sports and bands and all that kind of stuff. But I'll point out Mississippi Valley. I learned last night by watching a broadcast that Mississippi Valley was a school that was created so that they could create teachers that could educate children in rural Mississippi. It wasn't created for a band or football. It had a very
Wasn't created
noble
for Jerry Rice.
yeah. It had a very noble purpose in its creation. And in the creation, and of course, like all things, it has transformed. But they have not relinquished their original purpose. That's their mission, and they hold true to that. So let's celebrate that. As we talk about HBCUs and give it time, give them the necessary time to transform, continue to transform, and continue to create the empires that I think they're destined to create.
Yep. I like it. And so I'm excited about that. This whole HBCU thing, man. Stay on it. I know you kind of in that little space right now. So stay in there, man. Because the other thing, you could be able to connect and network with people in that same space and share business, all kind of different things that you can get from the synergy of just being around somebody else, man. He looked like me. If he could do it, I can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Hey, Roy, we can go on hours and hours, and so we don't want to keep people on here long, man. But I'd like to give you time to talk about where people can find you if they need to reach you for business or to come in and speak or whatever have you. Where can they reach you, and what would you want the people to do with Centex Sports?
So with Centex Sports, of course, at the website, you can check out some of our content. You can see it at syntechsportsnetwork.com. On the production side of the house, lighthousestreaming.com. And to reach me, probably on the Lighthouse Streaming side, roy@lighthousestreaming.com. We're trying to get our YouTube channel up, built up. We got a lot of views. We need some more subscribers. So go on there at Syntech Sports TV, Syntech Sports Network, and subscribe there, and Instagram. So we're on all those platforms. And I want to thank everybody that already support us. I mean, this baby kind of grew out of unexpectedly. It was kind of a surprise pregnancy, if you will, and so this platform has evolved, and we want to be able to tell the stories from our perspective. And so look for us in future ventures, and just thank you for your support. Thank you for watching and tuning in to what we do.
All right, Roy, man, I want to thank you for coming on and discussing, giving us your story as well as your words of wisdom, man. I kind of got you on short notice, and I appreciate you making time. I know you're a very, very, very busy man. I can guarantee you this will not be the last time that you see us on camera together.
Nope.
And I look forward to not only continuing to have these conversations about HBCU sports, but also working with you and your company in the future.
We look forward to it, and keep up the good work, man. The world according
to Rocky.
To Rocky.
Now let me go stop this video right quick.